I'll have to go with that boy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to round 54 of the WBC Talks. Stay home, stay safe. It's been a long time, Jill.
50
been at home.
that means 108 for you, given the Spanish in the morning and the English in the afternoon. Unbelievable.
But a lot of fun, as usual.
Always something more to say.
Yeah, and today is not going to be the exception.
No.
You put together this panel that is called Boxing on the Side, and it's going to be amazing, I know.
Yeah, well, you know, most people don't know that the people affiliated with the WBC work with them, not for them. Most of them are unsalaried people who just love boxing. And so they all work full-time jobs and they dedicate themselves to boxing. And they're with the WBC because their interest lies in health and safety for the athletes. So it would be interesting to find out a little about them, about their secret identities. What do they do outside of the ring?
And you are part of that too. So we're going to discover your secret identity, okay?
Maybe.
Okay, let me introduce the panel. Ladies first, Michelle Ponich. How are you? You're judge with the WBC, but you're going to have to explain us what else you do.
What else I do? Well, by day, I work in the public relations field, which is ever-changing, never a dull moment. Definitely a field that you have to remain very calm under pressure and be able to think on your feet.
And also, you are a wonderful singer.
Yes.
Who told you that?
I saw you. I'm in the conventions, you know?
I know. Yeah, singing is a very big passion of mine.
Which first, boxing or singing? Boxing or singing?
How about I say they're both number one?
All right. Well,
and next, I did this yesterday, but I have to do it again. If I'm gonna introduce Rex, I need to use my cowboy hat. Course.
You're looking good. You look good too. I've got a job lined up for you. If I can just catch this one horse, he'd never been ridden, but I think you can handle him.
I'm a horse handler, so no problem. Rex Walker, Rex, you handle the youth program. You are vice president. You're part of the board of governors, and also on the side you have a ranch.
Yes, I've had a ranch for years. My whole ambition when I got out of grade school was someday to own a ranch and have horses and things, and I was able to make that dream come true. And I have several ranches here in Colorado. We're the largest ranch holders in the state. And at one time, I owned up to 3,000 head of horses.
And also,
I have other businesses on the others that I do too.
You had famous horses. You had horses that were on TV.
Say again?
You had famous horses too.
Oh yeah, we've done a lot of movie work, and we have the horses in the movies and things like that. We did Return to Lonesome Dove, and we did Centennial years ago, and we did Cowboys and Aliens not too long ago. That was a wild show to try to do. They seem to want to have horses running through fire all the time, but we got our horses to do that, you know. But it's been a really a fun thing the horse business has. I've done it. Let's see. I think I've done it 58 years now. I've been in the horse business.
Whoa. Maybe
a little longer than that because I've been married. I've been married 65 years. Day after tomorrow, and
what?
We start.
Whoa!
Yeah, to the same woman.
He talks.
Which is a pretty good record nowadays.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
And now, I'm sorry, H before beauty, Daniel. So I'm gonna introduce Pepe Sulaiman.
Me?
Of course. Pepe works with WBC. He does a lot of good things in California with tournaments representing the WBC, but also he's a real artist. He can do video, audio. He can work with wood. He can paint. You sculpt too?
A little bit, yeah. Look.
That's so beautiful.
Wow.
This,
that's amazing.
This is actually a shamanic tool that a friend from Siberia taught me to do. So I also do this. And but mostly I do wood work in wood. Sometimes I just carve the wood. Sometimes I print it. A little later we'll show you some examples. And I am the son of this chubby guy here. Right there. Miss him so much. He was the reason for me being getting this sensitivity in art. That's a wood carving of Sean Porter. And funny enough, I started doing things with boxing just maybe 4 years ago, but never before. I was born into this boxing life, and since I was a little kid, since I was 1 or 2 years old, I remember seeing Mexican boxers with my father in the house, and so boxing has been all around me and our family since I can remember, since before I was born, actually. But funny enough, I never did anything before, I don't know, 4 years ago. So I started doing this portraits of champions, and but mainly I did a lot of prints for about maybe more than 12 years, I think. And I before that I started with photography, and then I went to UCLA Film School for 2 years for a postgraduate program. And now I do the videos for the Los Angeles office. Well, for the WBC from the Los Angeles office. And that's another one of my passions.
I have nothing to ask you.
No.
I don't know if you see
I'm
that.
gonna keep quiet, and then I'm just gonna wait.
I have this from years ago.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know how many years, 8 years, 9 years. I love it. I love it. This is something that Pepe had done. That's one of the intentions. Beautiful.
And as you said, Don Jose was a great photographer. I remember traveling with him and carrying the camera, and he said, "Give me the camera," and just looking for something. He saw something.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And now, Daniel
Yes.
Arthif, a great dentist that is also a boxer, or a great boxer that is also a dentist. How would you like to be called?
Depends what time of the day it is, I guess. Yeah, no, it's I'm just very fortunate and passionate. I've always been involved with boxing. I've loved boxing since I was a kid. I was very fortunate to be in a great household of boxing. My grandfather and my father were big Muhammad Ali fans. In fact, when Muhammad Ali came to London in the 60s, he actually met him, and it was a story he told me many times. So I grew up in a house where Muhammad Ali was idolized, and his accomplishments in and out of the ring, and so I mean, I was always a very physical, active child. I used to love boxing, martial arts, and boxing was huge for me. And then obviously growing up, I was in sort of the Mike Tyson era, so I was a huge Mike Tyson fan, and Tommy Hitman Hearns. And then I mean, and in terms of academics, I used to really enjoy school. Science was a very you know, it was a favorite subject of mine. I was very fascinated by the human body. So sort of the medicine side of things was something I was very interested in, sort of, you know, sort of developing a career in. And I was sort of going out, I think my mum, you know, bless her, she really helped me and assisted me. And she said, look, I think medicine's, you know, the hours aren't very sociable. It's quite difficult in that sense. So why don't you consider dentistry? And I did. And that sort of, when I was in high school, I looked at that. I went for work experience in a dental practice. And I said, you know what, this is the career I want to be in. So I was very fortunate. And now, thankfully, I look back, it's great, because at that time, I never really considered being a professional boxer. I just thought I'd just be boxing, you know, in terms of as a hobby, as, you know, to keep fit. But thankfully, having a career in dentistry allowed me that flexibility to also pursue this other passion of mine.
Yeah, last year, I think you closed your business for like 2 months and came to Mexico and fought.
Yeah, I was in Mexico, yeah, for 3 months actually. Yeah, from September to the New Year. I had it was a great time. I had sort of 2 fights. I was supposed to have a few more, but I had 2. But I'm very lucky, because what I tend to do is I sort of locum as a dentist. So locum would be sort of temping. So so rather than being sort of tied down to a place, so then so I'll sort of, you know, work at sort of, you know, various practices, dental offices, as you call them over in the States and in Mexico. But yeah, so it allows me that flexibility. But yeah, I had a great, fantastic trip in Mexico. I was there for 3 months. I was really looked after. I was very humbled. It was like my first visit to Mexico, and I've always had Mexican friends, but it was you know, a first experience in Mexico, and I was very humbled by the you know, the welcoming, you know, gestures, and how great the Mexicans were. I was really, you know, I was left very humbled. It was a fantastic trip. And I've got to thank the WBC, who were greatly, you know, hugely instrumental in assisting me with that trip.
Jill, now it's going to be your turn to explain your dark side, okay?
Hide the children, hide the children.
Well, my background is music production. I started out as a performer 150 years ago, was the last production singer at the Latin Quarter in New York. So that gives you my age right there. But went into music purely and ended up with Motown, and then moved on into television music production. And I still do that. That's my mystery, my secret, and my second love. I will always love music.
And you have some little statues at home. I saw them, some, like the one that is in the back. How do you call them?
We call them Emmy Awards.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. How many do you have?
17.
17.
Yes, yes. And they make great doorstops. Perfect.
I need one. Please send one at home.
And everyone who comes to the house, the first thing they want to do is just take a picture with one. So what can you do? So anyway.
Jill, go ahead.
No, boxing snuck into my life. It was not something I intended to do, and I don't regret a moment of it. I've met the best people. Some of them are here right on the screen right now. And it's always exciting, changing, and different. And culturally, it represents a microcosm of the way that we wish the world would be. I mean, if you can think about many cultures and people and backgrounds and economic levels and personalities, and somehow we managed to get along. It's unbelievable. And the first convention I went to, when I walked into the room and I saw all of these different types of people, I was immediately hooked. And I know it's that way, that emotional way for everybody. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But Rex, you are like the hierarchy of the WBC. We've lost Victor because he's trying to help Major Boyd get onto the screen. Now I'm worried about this because he works as a major in the Army and he can't work Zoom. So we have to work. Rex, what was your first convention like? That I want to know.
My first convention was in South Africa. Argentina. And about 96 or so, I think. And I went down there, and I was a judge at the time, and of course I went down to take the courses and things like that. But that was my first convention. I haven't missed one since.
It's amazing.
So, been really lucky with good health and things like that, and be able to go. That was my first convention in Argentina. I'll never forget the hotel. It was probably one of the strangest hotels we've ever stayed in down there. It didn't have hardly any room, but I looked up and the president of Argentina came in and gave us a speech, you know, and I said, wow, this outfit's got a little pull.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my big question to all of you, well, my first question though is to Daniel, which is dentistry, hands. How do you walk that line between protecting your hands and boxing? And the other thing is, how important is a mouth guard? As a dentist, you should be able to answer that.
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I mean, my hands, I have to say, I thank God first and foremost. I'm very grateful that I've actually got tough, solid hands. There's obviously a genetic component, but I think since a child, I'd always be hitting the bag, for example. And I've just basically gradually over the years toughened up my hands. I'd even hit the bag without any gloves and wraps. I mean, I don't want to jinx myself or anything, but I mean, sort of even now, if I'm training, I'll only wear hand wraps if I'm sparring. If I'm training, if I'm going to hit a bag or pads, I don't really need to wrap my hands, thankfully. I'll just put my gloves on and I'm good to go. So I'm just, I'm fortunate and blessed in that way. But obviously, you know, it's something that's, you know, that could happen. And, you know, you just got to be careful and, you know, be smart. But, and I think a lot of it's to do with punching technique as well. For, you know, you want to be, you know, landing the punch and, you know, in the right way and correcting. So, so thankfully I've never had anything like that. Yeah, mouth guard, absolutely imperative. I mean, you know, it just goes without saying, but, you know, as a dentist, I've certainly seen my share of, you know, traumatic incidences, patients who've had trauma, who've either, you know, been assaulted, had, you know, been hit in the street, or, and, you know, it's something that, you know, you see, and it does horrify you. And, but yeah, no, you know, without a doubt, it's something that's close to me always. There is no way I'd step into the ring without a mouth guard. So, but yeah, that's absolutely imperative. And I'm, you know, over the years, I've sort of looked at, you know, sort of mouth guards, and now, thankfully, I've sort of made my own design in terms of having the, you know, great, perfect sort of fit in terms of, you know, functionality, in terms of health and safety, in terms of, you know, oxygen consumption, you know, whilst sort of you're boxing and respiring. So, so I've sort of perfected my own gum shield, my own mouthpiece. Wow. And I've been very fortunate, actually. I've made that for a number of boxers, top level boxers as well, actually. And they've all turned around and said, this is the best mouth guard that I've ever worn. So they've actually, you know, fought in it as well. It's been, so it's nice to get that feedback from many top athletes.
Well, what makes yours different? What makes yours different?
Well, well, I can't say everything because it's a dead secret, but no, I'm messing. But yeah, no, it's, you know, when you look at the science of things, a lot of aspect comes in terms of how the bite, what we call the occlusion, how the jaws come together. So that's something I look at closely, and there's some research to suggest in terms of optimizing power and strength, in terms of how the jaws come together, but also in terms of the having an airway. I think that's very important, because, you know, boxing is something that you gradually, you know, you develop fatigue, you know, if you're not sort of breathing correctly. So you've got to be providing your muscles with adequate oxygen. So it's all about oxygen consumption, also the expulsion of carbon dioxide. So having that airway is very, very important. So that's something that I sort of, you know, basically embedded into my mouth guard, in terms of being able to have that gaseous exchange in an optimum manner. And then obviously in terms of the health and safety features. I think those two aspects definitely in terms of the bite, the occlusion, what we call, and having that airway, they're most definitely, sort of great features of mine. In fact, that picture just there behind there, actually just before that picture, if you just pop behind.
Please.
Jill, I have a question for Danielle.
When I offer, please go ask him.
Have you ever knocked anyone's teeth out or a tooth loose in a boxing match, and did you have to fix it yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rex, actually. Oh, that picture there. I'll come back to that in a second. Let me answer Rex first. Thankfully, no. But what it was, before boxing, I actually said to my close, family and friends, and I said to them, I said, look, if anything like that happened, God forbid, I'd actually feel very bad, and I'd feel morally obliged to actually, fix their teeth for free if that were to happen. And I remember doing some media work with the BBC, and they just asked me that in passing, and I just mentioned it to them, and they loved it so much. The next day when I did the second filming with them in the surgery, they asked me again, and I was a little bit perplexed. I wasn't too sure why, and then I realized afterwards they put it as a headline. They said dentist boxer promises to fix any teethy damages. So, but that wasn't for any sort of media work. That was the honest truth. So, but yeah, so thankfully that's never happened. And but I would feel terrible if that happened. In fact, having said that, I'll tell you something. There's been a couple of occasions where I knocked an opponent's gum shield out whilst I was boxing, and I actually stopped. It's I've got someone hurt, and potentially I can obviously capitalize, jump in on them and get the job done, but I actually felt bad. I actually stopped. I actually waved onto the referee to say his mouthpiece fallen out. Basically, I can't hit the guy, so I'd feel bad. So I actually stopped and told the referee, and the referee then stopped and obviously got that mouthpiece back into the boxer. And I think one of them was in Spain, and the crowd really appreciated that actually, and they all sort of gave me a round of applause. But it's something, something genuine. I wouldn't feel quite right. In English, we say there's a term that it wouldn't quite be cricket.
Well, we bring who we are into the ring. And Michelle, how did you get involved with boxing? I mean, first of all, Canada, and you're also the NABF representative to Canada, correct?
I am, yeah.
So how did you get involved in boxing?
My dad. I was a little girl, and he came home one day and he told my mom to put a dress on me, and he said he was taking me out. And he took me to my first match. We sat ringside. I was 4 years old. It was just a local match, and I really started to fall in love with the sport. I also had a godfather who was a promoter here in town, so I think that added to it. And as I grew up, my dad and I would sit and watch the fights. My dad was also a huge Ali fan, and it kind of progressed from there. And then almost 10 years ago, a couple of friends of mine called me up and said, book a flight to Vegas, book in at Mandalay Bay. And I said, what are we doing? They said, you're going to the World Boxing Convention. And little did I know that they actually were thinking that, I should start down the road of becoming a judge. And halfway through the week in Vegas, everything came to light. And we joked that was the week I got made.
Wow. So how does boxing fit into your, first let me take a moment just to say, Major Boyd. Hello, Major Boyd.
So Boyd's my first name. It's Major Melson.
I know, but we know you very well. I mean, you're our ambassador for peace, so we can call you Major Boyd.
That's the first time she's actually called me something nice. That's very nice.
My goodness, we should off here, Victor. I know you worked so hard. So we'll come back to you, Major Melson.
Thank you, ma'am.
Michelle, how does this fit into your life? I mean, you do, yeah.
Do you mean in terms of just schedule or just
work schedule? I mean, what do people say when you walk in a room and you say that you're involved with boxing? You don't look typically what people would imagine the stereotype of a person involved in boxing.
No, I get that a lot, but I also say, then I throw it back at people and I say, well, what does someone who's involved in boxing look like? don't put me in a box.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
It fits into my life beautifully. You know, in terms of fitness, I box for fitness. And I think in fact, doing that has also helped me in my judging. You know,
Right.
it's helped me understand a lot more. In terms of participating in boxing, Jill, like you said, I am so fortunate. I have met some of the most wonderful people in the last 9 years of my involvement in this community, and I now have a whole other family.
It's true. And now that Rex is going to invite us all up to the Sombrero Ranch for one of his, what is it called, Rex?
Well, it depends on which time of the year you want to come. We have a horse drive that goes from one ranch to another. It's an 80-mile horse ride, and it takes 2 days. But to come in, it's kind of like the City Slicker movie thing. But we've done that for the last 30 years. But this year, we had to cancel it on account of the virus.
Of course.
That was kind of a sad thing. We usually have about 40 guests come and ride. My man Victor's ready, I can tell.
I'm ready, yeah.
But and we award a buckle at the end of the drive. It says gate to gate. That means that you made the whole thing without getting thrown off your horse or didn't finish the ride, basically. And I've had one guy told me, he said, if I die, just tie me on my horse. I want that buckle. But
Rex, where is your ranch?
in Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
In
That's
Colorado. And we're in the horse business, Daniel.
Get there someday. So, Boyd, you've just joined us. How did you get involved in boxing? And we know that you're a major. You're also involved in philanthropy, and we know that you're recovering from COVID. So,
wow.
you're feeling well?
Yeah, I'm all healed, and thank you for checking in on me, and thank you for the times you gave me consoling words while I was going through that ordeal. And I'm all healed up. I've been healed up for some time. No matter if I came back, I had a nice 5-mile run this morning, so 5 1/4. So I'm feeling good. And boxing was forced upon me because I went to the United States Military Academy at West Point, and at West Point, all freshmen plebes have to take boxing as a gym class. And so I didn't have a choice. And it was 20 lessons, it was 4 graded bouts, 2 rounds, 1 minute each. I'll never forget at the end of the first round of my first time in the ring, after 1 minute, I couldn't breathe for the life of me in the corner. And I just going through my head, how do humans do this for 12 rounds? That was all I thought after 1 minute. And then I signed up for intramurals for basketball, and the upperclassmen took my name off that list and put me on for boxing. And then we won the school championships, and it started from there. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and it started from there. So it was forced upon me. I was almost 18, and I had to take it as a gym course.
And why the name Rainmaker?
So that came out from the movie The Power of One with Morgan Freeman and Stephen Dwarf, which took place during apartheid, World War II time era in South Africa, and was involved with boxing. But the Rainmaker, throughout history and traditions and cultures, the Rainmaker's called on when hope's needed, so it can cool things down and inspire. And that kind of was my road and route, not knowing that I was choosing it for that purpose, now accepting more that's part of my purpose. But that was my road, and I wanted to inspire people initially who were paralyzed that we're not giving up on you, spinal cord injuries, and we're going to help find a cure.
And you're still involved with that through your former girlfriend, correct?
Right. Well, actually, it's not through her. I'm involved with it on my own. Yeah. Well, it's a lot more than for her, because my life is so many involved into meeting so many more people who are paralyzed, like Paul Williams. It's for Paul Williams. It's for Eric LeGrand, my close brothers who are paralyzed, and then it's for people nobody would ever see or know existed, but they are paralyzed. And
so that you used to donate your entire purse to research?
Yep, the specific trial was from Dr. Wise Young at Rutgers University, and the challenge, this virus has slowed everything down. We had our FDA approval. We still have it. It's going to be at 2 hospitals in Jersey and Mount Sinai in New York. People walking in New York, the world will find out pretty quick. And everything I put on standstill because we were still trying to get the funding, and we were moving towards a very probable source for it, and then everything got slowed down. So this virus has hit many aspects of life and progress.
And you recently came back from a tour, didn't you? How are you adjusting?
I came back at the end of 2018. I feel like I'm back on this tour during quarantine.
Well, yeah, but you also have made some trips to the Mideast and to also the Doves tournament.
Oh, when you say tour, that's what you meant. I thought you meant deployment. So no, sorry about that.
That's
right. So listen, Jill set me up with Tony Milch. He started this, it's an organization / nonprofit called Gloves and Doves rather. And the purpose is to use boxing to bring together Arabs and Jews. But along with it, Christians and Druze, which are up north, the Druze people in Israel. And Tony has been at this for about 3 years, gaining the trust, going around gyms to gyms in Israel, gaining the trust in the Arab locations and the Christian, and he's Jewish himself out of England. And then because of you, we got connected, and I flew out with him. I flew out and met him in Israel March 4, stayed through March 11, and we traveled from gym to gym, helping speak, train. I got in the ring with a lot of the kids there, and that was a great deal of fun. And it just reminded you how much everything else is BS.
Right.
The kids, when you can compete and you're a kid and whatever's going on, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter anything else, how you look. It's something, the switch happens as they age at some point, but we're trying to capture them while they're young.
Well, Pepe, you do a lot of work with kids, teaching them art. You used actually boxing as a way to teach kids carving and artwork. I mean, it's kind of amazing.
How'd you do it, Pepe?
Yeah, we've done workshops with linoleum. So in one day, the drawing takes a long time. So I bring in the drawings. We just transfer them to the linoleum, and then I give them the carving tools. I show them how to do it, and 3 hours later, they all walk out with a print, which is amazing because
I couldn't do that at my age 3 hours later.
Also amazing is everybody here has some way of giving back. I know, Michelle, you're involved with a philanthropy, and everyone here has something that they're doing using boxing and the platform that they have to give back in their own way to society.
May I share with you a nonprofit I'm starting, Joe?
One, please.
So we're titling it Veteran Combat Support, and combat support your coach is the fighter's combat support. The people that help support everything, doesn't have to mean a fight. And right now, veterans are having to come out of pocket for many things from the VA for their health care that they shouldn't have to. The VA should be covering, but the legislation's not in. So what we're trying to do is help close that gap. So we're calling it Veteran Combat Support. I'm going to tell you this team I put together, and we're going to also partner with other VA veteran-oriented nonprofits, help provide maybe celebrities, maybe funding for there, and then we'll get a portion back from whatever gala was it was attributed towards and contributed towards, and then we'll push redistribute that out forward. And then RX Water with Tony, we're going to be trying. I have my classmate from West Point. I love Tony too. One of my classmates from West, I'm one of their ambassadors. So one of my classmates from West Point, I went to Stanford Business School. He has gotten something on military bases before to be sold. So the plan is we're going to try to get this RX Water into every installation we can, and we're going to have a portion from each of profits from each one donated back to this nonprofit Veteran Combat Support that we're going through getting the 501c3 clearance. So
it's great.
On the board, so listen, on the advisory board, Dave Itzkowitz, Boo Boo, and Sean Porter are all three on our advisory board, and I'm giving Lou a call today about it. And I hope there's no nonprofit that exists for this niche, and hopefully we'll make it as big as possible. I'm
sure you will. And go ahead, Victor.
I would like to ask Boyd about the statue that he has on the back.
Listen, I can't get anybody to give the money for it, so it's just been sitting with me this whole time. I've tried.
I know you have. We donated this statue to a benefit that Boyd was doing for the fund that he was talking about. And it's really, we couldn't get anybody to spend a reasonable amount of money to buy it. So
it's got Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s.
Wait, but now that you started a new nonprofit, there we go again.
Maybe we can. And it's got Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s signature engraved in it with all these other champions' names.
I know.
Just Floyd alone.
I carry them here in Mexico. I know how heavy they are.
My sister tried to pick it up when I just brought it over to my father's the other day. And I said, you don't want to touch that. You're 5 feet tall. You know what? And then I let her pick.
It's so heavy. And I'm going to tell a story on myself. When they first showed me the picture and they sent it to me, and they said it was something like 25 something. So a big box arrived, and I thought there were like 100 little statues in them for $25 a piece. There was one statue for $25,000. And
right.
I'm like, oh my God, boxing is a lot, but wow, I thought there was going to be hundreds of little statues. Anyway, I want to go back to the ranch for a moment. So Rex, the pandemic is over and we're all heading to your ranch. What do we got there?
Well, you have to bring the mask. All the horses will have their mask on first thing.
Hey, Rex, I would like to propose a convention in your ranch.
Why not?
One time we did have a convention for that ranch for the American Boxing Association of all the commissioners. And one of the highlights of it, I put every one of them that would ride a horse, own a horse to go out at a steak fry after we had our meetings. That was kind of, you have a closing banquet. Well, this closing banquet was a horseback ride out up in the mountains to a cookout area, and they had a big steak dinner. Now, some of the boys, including Dickie Cole, might have been a little too heavy to get on the horse, and we hauled him out in a wagon with a team. So that's how he got out there. But Dickie's wife is an excellent horseman. She really knows how to ride a horse.
Well, as you get older, the horse looks farther and farther away from the ground. That's all I can tell you. It's something to stay.
We're talking about the youth program and things like that.
Yeah, please.
For 30 years, I was in the rodeo stock contracting business, and I had a division called Little Britches Rodeos, and it was for kids from 6 to 18 years old. And I had done that for years and years and years. And so when Jose offered me the position of the youth program, I said, I've had a little experience dealing with kids. And you talk about something scary, you put some little 6, 7-year-old kid on a horse that you know is going to buck him off, you just hope that things go well.
Wow.
But the kids love it. A lot of the kids that I started in the rodeo became world champion saddlebronc riders, bareback riders, bull riders. A lot of them graduated on up into the professional ranks. So I had a little history of working with kids early in my career. And after about 30 years, I decided not to be in the bucking horse business anymore. We had the Bremer bulls and all the stuff that goes with it, And I'd go from one town to another putting on these shows according to where my contracts were.
How many horses do you have?
Right now, I don't have about 1,500, but at one time I had 3,000 horses.
Wow.
As I get on down the trail myself, I don't need as many horses as I thought I did in the past.
Michelle, what are things like in Canada right now, by the way? Are they opening up at all? Is boxing opening up there?
I haven't heard much about boxing opening up here yet, but businesses are starting to have started to open up. It's been a phased approach. Fortunately, where I am in Alberta, we've been pretty lucky with the numbers of people getting sick with COVID. They've been very, very low in the city that I live in. So very fortunate that way. I think there's some apprehension a little bit. We've had a number of protests here, very peaceful, but I think there's some apprehension from the health community on whether we'll see some uptake in COVID diagnosis.
So do you anticipate staying at home, working at home, or going back into the office at this point?
I think I'll be at home probably at least for the next 4 months, and then after that, I believe I'll probably be on a flex schedule, which is great. It works really well.
So you wouldn't have any problem if someone called you for an assignment to just go out there, right? If you're on a flex schedule.
Not at all.
They ever give you heat about that?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
you never, no problem?
No, I think when, when I started with the company that I'm currently with, I laid a few things out on the table when we were negotiating. The non-negotiables in my world, so. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And Pepe, how are things in LA right now?
Well, things are the businesses are starting to open now. Everything starts to ease down. There's a lot more people. Good thing is not a lot of traffic, which is one of the worst things of this place.
That'd be amazing. I would not recognize LA then.
No. But Matt, with this period that we're living, I'm really sorry for all the people that are, all the businesses, all the people that are without work, without being able to sell, without being to. But on the other side, if we really look at the good side of this thing that we're living, I don't want to call it like everybody calls it. It's given us the chance to, the world was going, it was, out of control. This made it really, really bad. When I was a kid, we used to make our toys. We used to, be creative with everything. And today, everything is based on the cell phone, on the selfies, which for me are insulting, I'm sorry. And today, this has given us a chance to look into our lives. For this 3 months, I've been, writing things from my childhood. I've been, revising all my issues, and I've been trying really to refocus my life, because everything was out of control. And today, for me, has taken me back to my workshop, because I was too much in working with the phone. I was too much working in things that really don't matter much. So I'm making a video right there. This is yesterday. I'm making a video of gyms that are empty, not to emphasize this period, but I want to analyze the loneliness in boxing. When the bell sounds, the fighter is alone in front of the other guy. As much as the team is there, millions of fans cheering, you are alone there. You are alone when you're dieting. You are alone when you're doing a lot of things around boxing. So I'm trying to write something, and I've been getting some images to do some kind of documentary, or I don't know what, related to this loneliness that can be in boxing for boxers.
Pepe, I'd say as a boxer, I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. So, it just...
very powerful. It's very profound.
As a person in a pandemic, it relates to all of us at this point.
Yeah.
When this is down, if you were alone, you stayed alone.
Yes. And so I was saying, it takes us back to who we are. Who we are without all these extra things that we have been flooded with. They give us all these things that we really don't need. And this 3 months have given me the chance to really rethink what I'm going to do from today on. So each day I'm really, really working on here, inside, not outside. Outside, there's nothing. And that's why I love working with kids, because they are not spoiled. Life spoils you.
Absolutely.
We are taught to focus on the bad things. We go to see horror movies. We go to see gangster movies, and we love that, and people go crazy. And because we are spoiled, and when we realize that what we really need is education, then we will live in a very different world because we don't have education. You know, going to school and having a hard drive in here doesn't mean you're smart, doesn't mean you're sensible, doesn't mean you're educated. You know, education is being a human from your inside. And that's what kids are. And that's why I love, hey, there's Charlie Hall. I really love this kid because he does everything that we cannot do. He is an ambassador, a true ambassador for peace. He's an anti-bullying, the WBC anti-bullying ambassador, and he devotes every day of his life some time to do something for someone else. He doesn't work, he doesn't make money. Still, he takes money out of his pocket to give gifts, to give some happiness to somebody during every day of his life. And that is a true example of what we should all be. You know, that's
Charlie, quite amazing.
amazing.
Pepe's brought up an interesting point because we're talking about people who's working outside of boxing. Do you feel that what's going on now with the last 3 months has changed the balance of your life or the desire to balance your life? Anyone? Has it given you a different perspective on things?
I have a perspective to offer from an incident. We had reserve duty this past weekend, and we had to do it over Workplace, this app. And we had to be in uniform, and I had to go up during the day to pick up a car for a family member up in the Bronx. And I was in uniform. And this was over the weekend. And I remember I was waiting for my car to come out, and there was an ice cream truck and someone online waiting to get ice cream. When I came up behind him, the gentleman looked at me and did a double and got startled. And he said, "No, bro, don't tell me that you're here because they sent you to get us because of the protests."
Interesting.
Yeah. First time in my life, I wore this uniform and a fellow American became uneasy. And I looked at him and I said, "No, man, I'm just trying to get some ice cream." And thank you for laughing, brother.
I want to say something.
I'm trying to get some ice cream.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was hot.
Pepe had some really good points that he was talking about, and I couldn't help but hearing his dad's voice coming through. And Don Jose was such a person that believed in equality and things, and to share yourself and to work for people. But anyway, Pepe, a lot of your dad came through in that talk. And another thing I want to say, he says he's only been involved the last 4 years. He was involved when I started. He was around taking pictures and doing this and that all the time. And I remember that like yesterday. So we're not going to accept the 4-year involvement in boxing, Pepe. You've been there a long, long time.
Pepe does it. He makes these out of wood carvings, these incredible instruments that are completely usable. The beautiful flutes and Native American. You have one there? I mean, they're functional. Look at these. He hand carves these.
Wow. Wow.
Play us something. Come
Yeah,
on.
I was going to say.
Something.
That's it.
Good job. Good job.
Michelle, it's your turn. Sing us something.
I had a feeling that was coming. Jill, you know you can't put me on the spot like that.
Come, Michelle. Michelle.
Daniel, drill something now.
We could start another WBC band.
Oh no.
We can have a drill and
Michelle, what sort of music do you like? And which artist do you like? Do you like old school? Do you like new school? What sort of music?
So I love all music. I truly, truly do, and it depends on my mood. But
yeah.
You know, I love Frank Sinatra. And you know what? I love old soul music.
Yes.
So I love old soul music. You don't write music find music like that anymore. It tells a story. It really, it hits your soul and your heart.
Yeah, that's true.
My thing too.
Let me tell you that because of this thing going on in the world and it's really hard to travel, we're working on an online convention. And we're thinking in a talent show like this. So you can practice today.
I like that.
Yeah.
This is worse pressure than judging.
Elson,
You know,
Yes.
talking about music, I'll tell you a little funny story today. From this year, slightly digressing, I've also become a dental prison officer. So I'm working a couple of days in prison as a dental officer, and it's been a rather strange experience. It's been good. I've enjoyed it as well. It's good, but it was funny because today I had this moment. So we were listening to the radio, and then Louis Armstrong's "What a Wonderful World" came on. Do you like that, Michelle?
It's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah, exactly. So I came on, and it was in between patients, and I just kind of needed that. And then I told my nurse, I said, you know what, put it a bit louder, yeah. And I just sat back on my chair and I started enjoying it. And I just had a bit of a deja vu moment. Have you guys seen Shawshank Redemption?
Yes.
Well, do you remember when the guy basically, he puts a record on, he loves it, and then he locks himself in the door in the office, and he just puts it on for all the prisoners to listen to, and he's just sitting back and he's enjoying that song. I felt like I was in Shawshank Redemption when that happened myself. I was just sitting back listening to Louis Armstrong, and I'm thinking I'm in prison. I was like, it's a bit of a deja vu moment with the Shawshank Redemption.
Melson, I wanted to say that you mentioned when you first started talking, you had just done a 5.5 mile run.
5 1/4.
Everybody can do that. A 5.5 mile horse ride is a long time, much less running around. Congratulations for being able to do that. I know your history at the academy probably contributed a lot to that, though.
Yes, sir. And it's my time. I give myself to go out on good behavior. I give myself an hour to go out because we're all quarantined. Thank you for that.
Do you wear a mask when you run?
No, I don't.
They say it's arbitrary whether to wear the mask or not when you're aerobicizing. It's hard. We need you to design a mask for us, Daniel, that does what you said with the mouthpiece, that brings the air in and out. Because
Yeah.
it can be suffocating after a while.
Yeah, the thing is with the mask, there's a bit of a misconception about it. If you're wearing the mask, you're actually only protecting others. You're not protecting yourself. And the only way you're really protecting others is because of expulsion of anything. Because obviously COVID is a respiratory tract infection. So if you're going to cough or sneeze, that's going to be released into the atmosphere. So the mask that's what you're doing. Some people have got, misconception and fake sense of security that if you're wearing the mask, you can protect yourself. You're not going to. It doesn't work like that. The mask obviously for starters, it's only effective for about 30 minutes. And then obviously you've got the sides that it's not a tight seal. So for example, in dentistry, what's happening now, because of the increased threat level, I think we're now on level 4, which is critical. So right now, we have to wear, for anything that's what we call aerosol generated procedures, which involve a drill or an ultrasonic, we have to wear an FFP3 mask, which forms a tight seal around. So that way, obviously, the aerosols don't get through. So from that sense, you're protecting yourself. But just in terms of the general public, sometimes you see, I don't know if you guys see this in the US and Mexico or in Canada, but sometimes you see people driving a car and they're wearing a mask and they're sitting by themselves, they're wearing a mask. I'm just thinking, what are you doing? What are you trying to achieve, Or also, if you go to the grocery store, people are wearing gloves and then they're touching everything, then touching their phone, and then touching their keys, they're touching the wallet, and they're just spreading all those germs everywhere. It's like, you're just defeating the purpose of wearing gloves. There's just huge misunderstandings and misconceptions out there in the public, and it's just, you know, what can you do?
It's I was watching Anderson Cooper, I'm sorry, Bill Maher give us talk about this, and he said how impossible. He said, "Are you trying to sanitize the world? Do you understand that's impossible?" And then he said, for example, you have humans that are frustrated, are nervous around being around other humans, but like take my dog over there that's lying on the, like you said, look at that thing just lying on the pavement out in the sun. He's gonna come back into my house after, and I'm gonna play with him.
Does that?
Yeah.
Mine rolls around on the grass, rolls around on people, licks everyone she sees, boom, into the house. And what do we do? Wash our hands.
So the other thing that they say, Jill, that we're not touching anything else, and our immune system needs that stimulation. So we will avoid the COVID. Well, Melson didn't, but my sister got sick too, but.
Well, I had my mother, and when I took her to the ER, cause she was sick for 11 days, we finally took her in, I was kissing her on her face, and I said I welcomed it because I got angry at it. So I wanted it to try me out. So that's why I really overexposed myself. I was kissing her face on her forehead and her mat in the ER. So. But
when we go out again, we can get sick if we don't expose to some bacteria, as Daniel just said.
I saw George Carlin. I got to see him do a stand-up once, and he said, the comedian, he says, "You know why I never get sick?" He said, "Forget all these medicine, forget antibiotics. Every day I go swimming in the Hudson River. I go down and back." He said, "Not a thing on this planet can get me sick after I've been doing that."
But we were taught when I was young, if you didn't eat 5 pounds of dirt by the time you were 10, your immune system it's changed completely. I mean, we should all be dead. Those of us that were raised in the 60s should all be dead based on the sanitary. But we're not. So, Rex.
Michelle, I'd like to say, and if I don't do this, Carlos wanted me to tell you hello.
You tell Carlos I say hello, and I send him a really big hug.
Every time I'm looking for Carlos at the convention, I don't ask where's Carlos, I ask where is Michelle, because Carlos will be with her.
So we're slowly going back to boxing now. Boyd, you're retired now. You're not boxing anymore, right?
Correct. Not boxing any longer.
Do you miss it?
I miss everything, but I miss it. I don't miss cutting weight. Whenever I think about it, I think about cutting weight, and I don't want that any longer. What I miss is having everybody from all facets of my life being in one place together, almost like a wedding, and people that would never be with each other who are very important in my life from different areas. And whenever I fought, I got to have everybody in the same place, and that was one of the greatest gifts.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And Daniel, you ready?
Sorry, just got that. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I've been missing boxing so much. Honestly, I've been having dreams of fighting. That's how bad it's got. Honestly, I'm not joking. I mean, you know, normally I may have had the odd dream or something like that, but I've had dreams now, literally. It's of being in the ring, of being in the change rooms, warming up, walking into the ring. So I'm just, yeah, I'm desperate. I can't wait. It's been obviously, it's affected obviously my career. I mean, I was supposed to fight in March and April and then in July. So I would, so it's just, it's been frustrating, but it's one of those things, everything, you got to, be positive and take, the positive and good things out of every situation. And there certainly has been, obviously, during the situation, but I'm just excited to get back into the ring, get my career back on progress, and just get it back on track. And just looking forward to, ending, sort of finishing, 2020 with a, good solid year for myself.
It's great.
Daniel, I miss the box so much that, as you know, I'm a boxing commentator, and yes. I let my kids fight so I can start commentating a fight.
Michelle.
It's funny.
Not being in the ring, of course, but.
Sorry, Jill, you cut out.
Do you miss judging? Do you miss the whole scene?
I miss all of it. I miss seeing everybody and the interaction. I miss the learning. I miss the environment of the fights.
I've got a couple of questions for Michelle, actually. So what was, firstly, what was your first fight that you judged, and what was your most recent one? And, yeah.
My first fight that I judged was 2018 when we were in Kiev.
Oh, right, yeah. I was there for that show.
I went to the convention, had no idea that I was going to be judging. And Tito tapped me on the shoulder the night of the opening night reception, and he said, Michelle, he goes, can you work Tuesday night? And I looked at him and said, work where? And he goes, the fights. And I was in shock. I was in complete shock. And so it was a super middleweight fight. It was a TKO in the 8th round. And I'm so grateful for the experience, and the added layer of gratitude that I had was that it was there and all my peers were there.
Oh.
The support I felt was just, I can't even put it into words.
Yeah.
The most recent fight, I'm a part of the WBC live fight evaluation committee. So I live scored the Wilder Fury 2 back in February.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was sitting in vacation in Hawaii, scoring the fight.
I love boxing, and I love judging. I love scoring. I love being analytical. So every time there's a fight, or 9 times out of 10, I'll be scoring a fight. So if you're watching a fight without obviously this WBC involvement, obviously what you do from scoring and stuff, do you ever watch a fight and score it for yourself as well, and do a comparison as to see how others scored it as well?
Absolutely. I have a very good group of friends here in Edmonton who, a couple of them are judges, so we always get together when there's a big fight. You know, we have a potluck, we have food and drinks, and we watch the fights and we score it. We talk through rounds. It's great learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rex,
So-
going back to work. Rex,
What'd you say, Jill? I didn't understand.
when are you going back to work?
I never quit working.
You know what I mean. When are you going back to?
You mean with boxing?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know when, they're going to have 2 fights in Vegas. One of them's an NABF championship, but the supervisor's not even going to be there. Dwayne's going to supervise over the telephone. So I don't know when they'll allow us to go back in that capacity. I'm currently, working with my horse business and the saddle business, but we've got some youth fights that are coming up also, one in Russia and a couple others that Misty's working on. And I think we're going to start having a few youth fights, but I don't know when I personally would be able to attend a fight. And I used to probably go to a fight, at least 2 fights a month around the world somewhere. And it's really been hard. I had to cancel, I think 6 reservations that I had when this thing made, going to fights and things that I was planning to go.
Are you restless?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. I've been thinking about, my age, you don't know how much longer you're going to get to it. And I want to make sure that I've got a credential to get into heaven these days. I'm working on that credential a little bit.
What about you?
Jill,
Rex, I'm going to be calling the fight tonight, and I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to call the fight for all Latin American. I'm going to do it from here, from my house.
Yeah, I understand that people are going to do that. The commentators are going to be in the studio or out, so you will get a little better taste of the boxing than the rest of us are going to be able to do. But I think certainly that this so-called pandemic or stuff will be over and we'll be able to get back. And the thrill of being in a fight a live fight is nothing. You know, people see them on television, but there's no replacement of sitting in the stands and watching a live fight, especially from ringside.
Totally agree. What
So
about
Jill,
Place.
Jill, I wanted to share another. We got hit. The Jewish Sports Hall of Fame was canceled this year for the induction, and Al Bernstein and then Harold Letterman were being inducted posthumously, and they had to put it out till next year, and that was a big one because there's not too many Jews in there, period, and it's especially the significance with Harold. That one hurt, but it will be next year. But that was another thing that's the type of thing that people don't even know that existed, so that they didn't know it was anything to be canceled. But I'm sharing. We were gonna have Harold Letterman and Al Bernstein inducted this year.
When was it supposed to be held?
That was supposed to be April 26th, brother, and that was going to be in Long Island.
Oh, okay.
And David Stern from the NBA was going to be inducted posthumously also this year. So it's a heck of a class.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame, International Boxing Hall of Fame, all been canceled. The people who were nominated were so disappointed. Christy Martin, it just broke her heart. It was the day of her birthday nomination. What about you, Pepe? Do you miss it? Come on.
I'm in heaven right now. I'm working every day, all day long. No, I'm actually, I'm about this close to finishing the videos for WBC University for referees. Well, I'm not this close to finishing. So after all this is over, or the WBC talks, we're going to come in with the ref, and then I'm going to start working on the videos for judges and ring officials. So I'm working home, and I have everything here to work with. So I'm nonstop every day. Even Sundays.
Everybody knows that when you're with Mauricio or any Sulaiman, you're gonna be working even when you're sleeping.
Oh my God, I know. Somebody should talk to Mauricio. I get messages on Sundays at night, late at night. Unbelievable.
And now there is no office time, so you can be talking with him or Gabriel or any of them at 1 in the morning.
Forget it.
You learn to put disturb on your phone? What's the matter with you, Pep? One would like to say, Rex?
Say again?
Anything you want to say in conclusion?
Well, we're talking about things being canceled. Last year, I was elected to the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. And this year, I was scheduled to be introduced into the National Boxing Hall of Fame in California, and that had to be postponed, but they claim they're going to do it again next year.
Yeah.
So you miss things like that when you miss those things.
Yeah, you spend part of the year complaining too many activities, too close together, and how are you going to get there and cancel the rest of your life, and then poof, they go away. It's almost like a lesson. Crazy. I'm never going to complain again. The street crowded. The people, please. It's crazy.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Huh?
I'm gonna hold you to that. Never complaining again.
Well, I could hold you to that.
I never said I'm never gonna complain again.
Sure.
What'd you say?
That it's in our nature to complain.
Yes.
So, do you have anything else to add?
So, we unfortunately, that thing we were doing, the Life Aid program with the former Undersecretary of the Army, Pat Murphy, and we were partnering up, and we were going to, with Al Roker Entertainment, the whole thing about brain health for veterans and for first responders. And they were supposed to have the concert in Forest Hills Coliseum in Queens, 11 September, and then 12 September for open to the public, and they were going to get a big name. That was the plan, and we were going to set up this boxing event on Fort Dix because they're going to be a group of cyclists riding from the Pentagon and taking off and arriving at Ground Zero on 9/11. So they were supposed to stop on 9/10 at Fort Dix, which is on the way. And it's frustrating because we were going to work to get the Mexican Military Academy to come over and box against some of our service members on Fort Dix. And I had the support of the 2-star command behind me from this and the former Undersecretary of the Army, which is his program, which means I don't think it's going to go away. We just have to shift it forward.
Yeah.
And I want it to happen really bad. And I really want the Mexican Military Academy boxers to be there.
Mexico
compete.
bad right now too, though, isn't it, Victor? Things have gotten much worse in Mexico recently.
Well, yeah, things in Mexico are getting. Go ahead, Pepe. Are you going to talk?
No, now that Melson is mentioning the military, we have been trying and to get the militaries to participate in adaptive boxing, which is the boxing or wheelchair boxing, because it's not a sport for people with genetic disabilities. It's more like a sport for somebody that has lost a leg, for example, or something. So in England, with Scott Welch, he has been able to run a very successful program, and we just haven't found the door to go in where we can find boxers interested, that have some disability, that can get in a wheelchair and train and actually, and it's not, the aim is not to hurt the other one. It's a lot more of ability, of movement, of evading punches. It's a very interesting proposal for boxing. So if you know, Melson, anybody that can help us with that'll be great.
Yeah, I do know who. Because I started with the program. I started with a gentleman. I'm going blank on his name. We were on the news about it together, and I was holding pads for him. So he's a double leg amputee, and he suffered a spinal cord injury at a further accident. So anyway, he's got the resource. He's connected. I don't remember who he's connected with, but it's at the top for this, as far as the people that are interested in doing that here. So I'll be more than happy to connect you with him.
Thank you.
We can get a 3-way call going, a Zoom call, or 4 if Jill wants to get on it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
His name is 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦 𝗥𝗢𝗨, and he's about 210 pounds even without legs. And he is tough. I was messing around with him. I sat on a seat in front of him, and I had the pads on, and I was using them as gloves at the same time. He's quick, so he is the mind, body, and spirit for it also.
Yeah.
Great. So Victor.
Jill and Victor, I want to thank you guys for taking your time out of your life to put these programs together. There's been an outstanding thing that's happened, and now I think this is the 53rd one. And if you go back and watch them, there's a lot of work went into that. I just want both of you to know how much I appreciate that.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. It's been a real journey sharing with Jill this, and we've been really enjoying, at least myself, and I've been laughing a lot. So it's amazing to be in touch with the boxing family.
Absolutely. So Victor, we say
Mexico is right at the peak of this pandemic problem.
Wow.
It's the best time to stay at home, to be safe, to take care of yourself. But there are some issues. People need to go out. Some other that doesn't understand that is something really happening. Just go out and doesn't wear a mask, go anywhere and bring kids or old people. So it's been really tough. As I told Boyd, my sister got sick too, and one of my aunts. So I understand how hard could it be. She never got to the hospital, but she really had a hard time. And the best thing you can do is to take care of yourself, as they say in boxing.
yes.
For sure. Protect yourself at all times. Absolutely.
So we want to thank everybody for giving us your time today and joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. I hope the labor wasn't tough.
Thank you very much. It was great.
About that, but it's like being with family, the good and the bad.
Definitely.
Family, it's really beautiful. So
Sure.
I'm the bad. You know, it's very funny how sometimes I send pictures or videos to Jill, and she answers, "Oh my God, you are weird." But to me, that's the best compliment I can ever get.
some are amazingly relaxing and beautiful. They're always a pleasure to them. Are weird. Anyway, shall we say?
Stay home.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank you
safe.
for having me on.
Pleasure.
I love you, Jill. Thank you, team. Until I speak again.
And
Vamos, amigos.
Mauricio,
Nos vemos.
Mauricio came out with this Zoom or whatever hug. So you can.
Yeah.
The big time.
There's a big.
Thanks, everybody. Stay home. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Jill.
Stay cool. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Jill. Love
Take care.
you.
Love you,
Pleasure.
Michelle, Daniel, Rex, Pep.
Likewise.